The night the mansion burned, Naya Wilson carried 2 screaming toddlers through a wall of fire, her lungs choking on smoke, her arms blistered, her heart pounding with one thought: save them. Behind her, the Reddington estate, a palace of marble and secrets, crumbled in a blaze that would make headlines by dawn. She had risked everything to save Mary and Mia, the billionaire's precious twin daughters. But as the sirens wailed and cameras flashed, Naya's heroism twisted into accusation, because by morning the world would believe she started the fire. Smoke, thick, black, and suffocating. It filled her lungs before she even realized the house was burning. Naya Wilson jolted awake to the shrill wail of the fire alarm. For a split second, she thought she was dreaming, that the red glow seeping under her door was just dawn breaking early. But then she heard it, the crackle, the pop, the roar of something alive and hungry. Fire. She leapt from the narrow maid's bed and stumbled to the door, heart pounding so violently she thought it might burst. The heat slammed into her face the moment she opened it. Smoke rolled down the hallway like a living thing. "Naya!" Someone screamed faintly in the distance. Maybe one of the other staff, maybe not. The sound was swallowed by the chaos. And then she heard it, the thin, terrified cry of a child. "Mary? Mia?" She gasped, clutching her chest. Without a thought, she threw her apron over her mouth and ran into the corridor, barefoot on burning carpet. The grand staircase that once shimmered with marble was now half engulfed in flames. Portraits of the Reddington family melted in the heat, their faces dripping down the walls like ghosts. She turned left, toward the nursery. The air was thick, almost solid. Her eyes stung, her skin blistered as she pushed through the smoke. A chandelier crashed behind her, sending sparks across the hallway like fireflies from hell. "Hold on, babies, hold on," she whispered, coughing. When she reached the nursery, the door handle was scalding. She wrapped her apron around her hand and yanked it open. The room erupted with light. Curtains were ablaze. The ceiling creaked ominously. And there they were, 2 tiny figures huddled in the corner, crying. Naya didn't think, she moved. She tore the flaming curtain down with her arm, ignoring the searing pain, and ran to them. "It's okay. It's okay, my angels. I've got you." Mary clung to her neck. Mia whimpered in her arms. The smoke was so thick now that her vision blurred. She staggered to the door, but the hallway was gone, swallowed by fire. There was no way out that way. Her eyes darted to the window. The drop was 2 stories. Another crash, the ceiling beam splintered. She had seconds. She grabbed a blanket, wrapped the twins tight against her chest, and whispered, "Close your eyes, babies." Then she ran, and jumped. Glass shattered. The world flipped. They hit the ground hard, grass and earth breaking their fall. The air left her lungs in a scream she didn't hear. For a moment, she couldn't move. She only felt the heavy weight of 2 tiny bodies on her chest. Then the faint, miraculous sound of crying. They were alive. Her eyes filled with tears of relief and pain. She looked up at the burning mansion, the Reddington estate, glowing like a temple consumed by wrath. Sirens echoed in the distance. Neighbors shouted. She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. A figure rushed from the smoke. Mr. Reddington, his once impeccable suit stained with ash, his eyes wild. He froze when he saw her, the twins in her arms, the flames behind her. "Naya!" he breathed, disbelief cutting through his voice. "What have you done?" Before she could answer, the roof caved in. The fire roared higher, swallowing every truth in its light. And as the world blurred around her, Naya Wilson fainted, unaware that by sunrise, she would no longer be seen as a savior, but a suspect. 2 weeks earlier, the Reddington mansion gleamed under the morning sun. Glass walls, marble floors, and silence so heavy it almost echoed. It was the kind of place that looked perfect from a distance but felt cold up close, like a museum where no one really lived. For Naya Wilson, it was both her workplace and her prison. She had been the live-in maid for nearly a year now, cleaner, cook, nurse, and sometimes mother. Her days began before sunrise and ended long after midnight, yet she never complained. Not when she needed the money, and certainly not when she had them. The Billionaire's 3-year-old twin girls. Tiny miracles with curls like dark silk and laughter that could melt stone. They were her world, even if they weren't hers to love. "Morning, Miss Naya," Mary chirped one day, mispronouncing her name with her usual joy. "It's just Naya, sweetheart," she smiled, tying the little girl's shoe. "Miss makes me sound old." Mia, the quieter twin, sat on the rug with a teddy bear that had seen better days. "You don't look old," she whispered, half hidden behind her toy. Naya laughed softly. "Well, that's the nicest thing anyone said to me today." She loved these mornings, the calm before the household woke up and the performance began. Because once Mr. and Mrs. Reddington descended the stairs, the house changed. Mr. Reddington, Alexander Reddington, CEO of Reddington Holdings, was a man who measured life in contracts and profits. Every step he took was purposeful, every word calculated. To the outside world, he was the perfect husband, father, and visionary. To those inside his house, he was a storm wrapped in silence. Mrs. Reddington, Claudia, was beauty and bitterness stitched together. Once a model, now a wife trapped in gold. She rarely smiled anymore, and when she did, it was sharp enough to cut glass. At breakfast that morning, Naya set the table as usual, fruit bowl, coffee, the twins in their high chairs. Mr. Reddington entered first, reading his tablet. "Claudia's not coming down?" "She said she's not hungry, sir," Naya said quietly. "Of course not," he muttered, taking a sip of coffee. His eyes briefly lifted to her, sharp, assessing. "You've been with us, 11 months now?" "Yes, sir." He nodded. "The girls seem attached to you." Naya smiled faintly. "They're good children." "That's not what I asked," he said. Then, catching himself, he looked away. "Never mind." An awkward silence followed, one broken by Mary's giggle as she tried to feed her sister banana slices. For a moment, even Reddington smiled. Then Claudia appeared, dressed in silk, sunglasses indoors, perfume like smoke. Her gaze landed on Naya. "You're early again," she said, voice smooth but cold. "I like to have everything ready before the girls wake up, ma'am." Claudia's lips twitched. "So diligent. I sometimes wonder if they listen to you more than me." The comment hung in the air. Naya lowered her head. "I just do my job, ma'am." But Claudia's eyes lingered, a flash of jealousy masked behind a perfect smile. Later that day, while Naya was folding laundry in the servants' quarters, she overheard whispers near the corridor. Irene, the head housekeeper, was speaking with Mark, the mansion's security officer. "Told you, something's not right with her," Irene muttered. "She's too close to the twins. The madam doesn't like it." Mark chuckled. "She's just good with kids, that's all. Better her than those nannies that come and go." "Still," Irene said, lowering her voice, "Claudia said she found one of her bracelets missing last week. Guess whose room's right next to the master suite?" Naya froze. They stopped talking when they saw her in the hall, both offering thin, guilty smiles. She didn't say a word, just walked past, her hands trembling slightly as she folded the next sheet. She'd done nothing wrong, but she knew how fast whispers could burn in a house like this. That night, as she tucked Mary and Mia into bed, Mary clutched her hand and said, "Don't leave, Naya. You're our home." The words nearly broke her. She brushed a tear away before it could fall. "I'm not going anywhere, baby. I promise." Outside the nursery window, lightning flickered across the sky, a silent warning of the storm that was coming. The mansion had always been quiet, but lately it was too quiet, the kind of silence that hums with secrets. A week had passed since Naya overheard the whispers. The air inside the Reddington home had shifted, subtly, but enough for her to feel it. Claudia's smiles had grown tighter. Irene watched her with a kind of smug satisfaction. Even the security guard, Mark, who once greeted her kindly, now avoided her eyes. The only ones untouched by the tension were Mary and Mia, who still ran to her arms each morning as if nothing in the world could ever go wrong. But something was wrong. and Naya could feel it in her bones. That Tuesday morning, she was scrubbing the floor of the grand hallway when she noticed something odd. A faint scorch mark near the electrical outlet behind one of the side tables. It wasn't large, just a dark patch, but the carpet around it smelled faintly of burnt plastic. She unplugged the nearby lamp and frowned. That's strange. Later, she mentioned it to Mark when he came by to check the back door locks. I think there might be a wiring issue near the hall socket, she said. Could be dangerous. Mark gave her a distracted look. Yeah, I'll tell maintenance. He didn't write it down. Just, please make sure they check it soon, she insisted. The girls. Relax, Naya. This house has better wiring than most hospitals. He grinned, tapping the wall. Reddington pays for the best. But that night, as she lay in bed, she couldn't shake the image of that blackened spot, and the faint buzzing sound she'd started hearing near the ceiling vents. 2 days later, Claudia Reddington cornered her in the hallway. The woman's perfume arrived before her voice, sweet and suffocating. Where were you yesterday evening? Naya blinked, startled. Ma'am, I came down for water around 9 and didn't see you in your quarters. You're required to remain on site after hours. I was in the laundry room. The girls had spilled juice on their blankets. Claudia's head tilted, eyes glinting. You seem to have an excuse for everything. Naya swallowed hard. I was just doing my job. Are you? The woman stepped closer. Because lately, I've been wondering if that's all you're doing. My daughters talk about you constantly. They cry when I try to feed them, but they smile for you. Ma'am, I don't. Don't interrupt me, Claudia hissed. You're a maid, nothing more. Remember that. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking like gunshots on marble. Naya stood frozen, her chest tight. She'd never wanted to outshine anyone, least of all the twins' mother. But how do you tell a child not to love you when love is all they know? That evening, as she tucked the girls into bed, she noticed Mr. Reddington standing by the doorway. He looked tired, the kind of tired money can't fix. He lingered, watching as she hummed a lullaby. They sleep better when you're here, he said softly. Naya glanced up, unsure how to respond. Children, they just like routine. He nodded. Still, you've done more for them than most people in this house. It might have been a compliment, but the way he said it made her uneasy. His gaze lingered too long. Then, as if realizing it, he cleared his throat and turned away. Good night, Naya. Good night, sir. When the door closed, she exhaled shakily. The mansion's walls suddenly felt closer, listening, watching. Later that night, she passed the study and heard voices, sharp, angry ones. You're lying, Alex, Claudia's voice hissed. Don't think I haven't noticed the money missing from the accounts. Lower your voice, he snapped. You don't understand what's at stake. What I understand is that you're gambling away our life to save that damn company. You're one bad investment from bankruptcy. Naya froze behind the doorframe. Bankruptcy? The Reddingtons were supposed to be untouchable. I'll fix it, Alexander growled. Just keep up appearances. And for God's sake, don't let the staff sniff around. Especially your precious maid? Claudia spat. Maybe she knows more than she should. A glass shattered. Then silence. Naya backed away, heart pounding. Something was rotting beneath the marble and gold of this house. And somehow, she was standing right in the middle of it. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every creak of the walls sounded like a whisper. Every gust through the vents like a warning. When she finally drifted off, she dreamed of smoke curling under her door, and 2 small voices crying out her name. It began quietly, the kind of night where nothing feels wrong, until it is. Rain fell in a slow, rhythmic drizzle over the Reddington estate. Thunder rolled across the hills, distant and low, like the growl of something waking up. Inside, the mansion slept. It was close to midnight when Naya Wilson finished her rounds, folded the last of the twins' laundry, turned off the hallway lights, and checked on Mary and Mia one last time. They slept curled against each other, tiny fists clutching their blankets. A soft night light painted their faces in gold. Naya stood in the doorway longer than she meant to, just watching them breathe. The peace of it made her smile. Then she closed the door gently and went back to her room. The storm deepened. Lightning flashed. Once, twice, illuminating the corridors like a strobe. Somewhere, a window banged in the wind. Naya sat on her bed, half drowsy, a book open in her lap. She barely registered the faint clicking sound coming from the ceiling. Then a soft buzz. Her head lifted. The air smelled faintly of something metallic. She frowned, stood, and looked toward the outlet she'd reported days ago. The lamp flickered once, twice, then died completely. The next sound she heard was a pop. Then another. Then boom. The entire left wing of the mansion lit up like daylight. A surge of heat punched through the corridor. The lights shattered. The air filled with screams. Naya dropped the book and ran for the door. The smoke hit her first, thick, choking, suffocating. The alarms blared so loud they felt like they were inside her head. She could barely see 2 feet ahead as she stumbled into the hallway. Fire! Fire! Somebody! She coughed out the words, but her voice was swallowed by chaos. Flames crawled along the wallpaper, spreading like they'd been waiting for this moment. She turned toward the nursery. A distant cry pierced the noise. One of the twins. Her heart stopped. She sprinted, barefoot, through falling debris and shattering glass. The mansion she'd cleaned 1,000 times was now a maze of heat and smoke. She reached the nursery door, the same one she'd opened every night. But this time the handle seared her palm. She wrapped her apron around it and forced it open. The sight nearly broke her. Fire licked the walls. The ceiling was starting to split. The air was unbreathable. "Mia! Mary!" she shouted, coughing hard. 2 tiny shapes were huddled under the crib, crying. Naya dropped to her knees, crawling through the smoke. "It's okay, baby, it's okay." She pulled them out, wrapping them both in a blanket. Her eyes burned. Her skin blistered. The twins' cries grew faint from the lack of air. She turned toward the door, but the hallway was gone. Fire everywhere. Trapped. She looked to the window. Rain pelted the glass, but the drop was 2 stories high. Thunder shook the roof. The floorboards groaned beneath her. She could hear the house dying. She grabbed another blanket, tied it around her arms and the twins, and whispered, "Hold on to me. Don't let go." She ran and jumped. The world exploded into sound and motion. Glass shattered around them. Air rushed by in a blur of fire and rain. They hit the wet grass hard. Pain radiated through her body like lightning. The twins screamed, alive. Naya gasped for breath, coughing, shaking, clutching them tight. Behind her, the mansion was a burning cathedral, flames climbing toward the sky. Sirens wailed in the distance. She heard shouting, male voices, people running. "Naya!" She turned, dizzy, to see Alexander Reddington stumbling through the rain, his face streaked with ash. He froze when he saw her, the twins crying in her arms, her face blackened with soot. "You?" he breathed, voice trembling with disbelief. How did this start?" Naya blinked through tears. "Sir, the wiring, I told Mark." He looked past her to the wing of the mansion where the fire was fiercest. "That's your quarters, Naya." She turned slowly. The realization hit like a knife. The blaze had started from that side. "No," she whispered. "No, that's not. It can't be." Claudia appeared behind him, wrapped in a coat, clutching herself as she stared at the inferno. Her eyes found Naya and hardened. "You did this," Claudia said quietly. "You set our home on fire." "What?" Naya gasped. "Ma'am, I just saved your children." But Claudia's trembling hand pointed straight at her. "Why else would it start from your room?" Naya's throat closed. The rain fell harder, but nothing could wash away the accusation in that woman's eyes. She looked down at Mary and Mia, the only ones who didn't see her as a monster. They clung to her, sobbing, their tiny fingers gripping her dress. Sirens grew louder. Blue and red lights flashed through the smoke. Paramedics rushed forward. Police followed. Hands pulled the twins from her arms. Someone wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Another voice said, "We'll need to question her." Naya tried to stand, to speak, but everything spun. The heat, the sirens, the betrayal. Then darkness took her. The last thing she saw was Mr. Reddington turning away. And the last thing she heard, Claudia's voice through the rain. "She burned our home." The world returned slowly. At first, only sounds, distant voices, machines beeping, the hum of fluorescent lights. Then pain. A sharp, spreading ache across her arms and neck. And finally, the weight of memory. Naya Wilson opened her eyes to a ceiling she didn't recognize. White, sterile, humming with life. A hospital. Her throat burned when she tried to speak. The first sound that escaped was a hoarse whisper. "Mary, Mia." A nurse appeared, startled. "You're awake. The twins. They're safe," the nurse said gently, adjusting her fore. "You saved them." Relief swept through her in a flood that nearly made her cry. She closed her eyes and whispered a thank you to a God she wasn't sure still listened. But the peace didn't last. Because the next thing the nurse said was, "There are some people here to speak with you." Two men entered. One in uniform, a fire investigator, and another in a plain suit with a badge clipped to his belt. The detective's tone was calm. Too calm. "Miss Wilson," he began. "We're here about the fire at the Reddington residence." Her hands trembled slightly as she nodded. I did everything I could." "The girls." "Yes, you rescued them," the investigator said. "That's what everyone's saying." He paused, then exchanged a glance with the detective. "But there's something else we need to discuss." Naya frowned. "What do you mean?" The detective flipped open a folder and slid a photograph onto her blanket. It showed the charred remains of a room. A burned mattress, melted lamp, and collapsed dresser. "That's your quarters, isn't it?" She felt her pulse quicken. "Yes. The fire started there," he said flatly. "Electrical origin, possibly intentional." "Intentional?" Her voice cracked. No, I didn't. I was asleep. I woke up to the alarm." The investigator's tone stayed clinical. "We found traces of accelerant in the debris near your nightstand." She didn't go home. Not that she had one anymore. The mansion was ash. Her few belongings gone. She found refuge in a tiny room above a laundromat downtown. The air smelled of detergent and loneliness. At night, she'd stare at the ceiling and replay the moment in her head. The sparks, the heat, the terrified faces of the twins. Every detail, every second, searching for something she missed. Something that could prove she wasn't the one who lit that fire. But no matter how she turned it, the truth was slipping away, buried under ash and accusation. One evening, a soft knock echoed through her door. When she opened it, a young woman stood there, notebook in hand, press badge around her neck. "My name's Alana Cruz," she said. "I'm a journalist. I think you're being set up." Naya blinked. "What?" Alana stepped inside, lowering her voice. "I've covered the Reddington family before. Trust me, they're not as perfect as they seem. And someone out there wanted this fire to happen." Naya stared at her, a flicker of hope cutting through the despair. "You believe me?" "I do," Alana said. "But if we're going to clear your name, we need to find out who really started that fire." Outside, thunder rolled again. Echoing the night it all began. But this time, Naya didn't feel like running. This time, she was ready to fight back. The rain hadn't stopped since the night of the fire. It fell endlessly, washing over the city like a baptism or a burial. Naya Wilson sat at a diner booth with her hood pulled low, staring at the woman across from her, Alana Cruz, the journalist who claimed to believe her. Steam rose from their untouched coffee cups. Between them sat a manila folder and a single photograph. The Reddington mansion, reduced to bones of blackened steel and ash. Alana tapped the picture. "This isn't just an accident, Naya. The fire patterns, they don't match an electrical fault. The burn marks are uneven. Someone fed that fire." Naya's fingers tightened around her cup. "Then why won't the police see that?" Because they already have a narrative, Alana said flatly. You're a maid with no power, and they're the Reddingtons. Money writes its own truth. Naya looked out the window, rain blurring the world outside. They said it started in my room. But I didn't even light a candle. I know. Alana opened the folder, revealing photos she'd taken herself. Police reports, insurance documents, and leaked images from the investigation. Look at this. The fire marshal's report was edited. The original said the point of origin was uncertain. That line disappeared from the final version. Edited by who? Alana's jaw tightened. Someone high up, possibly on the Reddingtons' payroll. Naya's heartbeat quickened. Why would they do that? Their home is gone. They almost lost their children. Alana hesitated. Because a fire can solve certain problems. Financial ones. Naya's eyes widened. Alana leaned closer. A week before the fire, Reddington Holdings filed a quiet request for an insurance reevaluation on the estate. Double the coverage. And guess what? The company's stock was nosediving. Naya's stomach turned. You think I think someone in that house had a reason to see it burn. Over the next few days, they dug deeper. Alana handled the research, records, leaks, phone calls. Naya followed the emotional threads only someone inside the mansion would recognize. They made a strange team. A woman the world had condemned, and a reporter with just enough stubbornness to believe her. Naya remembered details others would have missed. The scorch mark behind the hallway outlet, the argument she overheard between Alexander and Claudia, the missing bracelet Irene gossiped about, the smell of gasoline she'd assumed was cleaning solvent. Piece by piece, the puzzle began to form. But every answer led to another question. One evening, they met again. This time in Alana's cramped office downtown. Rain hammered against the window. Alana placed a photo on the desk, a close-up of Mark, the mansion's head of security. He quit the day after the fire, Alana said. No statement, no forwarding address, just disappeared. Naya's breath caught. He's the one I told about the faulty wiring. Exactly, and he didn't report it, which means he either ignored it or used it. Naya sat back, her mind spinning. Mark had access to everything, the cameras, the codes, the keys. But why would he do this? Alana exhaled. That's what I'm trying to find out. She clicked her keyboard and brought up another file, security system logs from the night of the fire. According to this, the internal cameras in your wing were disabled 30 minutes before the blaze. Naya frowned. Disabled how? Manually. Someone entered a maintenance override code. And who would have that code? Only 3 people, Mr. Reddington, Mark, and you. Naya's blood ran cold. Me? It's how they'll keep painting you as guilty, Alana said. But I don't buy it. You're not that careful. Whoever did this was meticulous. They knew how to erase their trail. Later that night, Naya returned to her room above the laundromat. The air was thick with detergent and memories. She sat on her bed, staring at her burned hands. Her reflection in the cracked mirror looked like a stranger, bruised, tired, yet somehow unbroken. She thought of the twins, Mary's laugh, Mia's quiet hugs, the way they'd reached for her even as the flames rose. She couldn't stop now. For them and for herself, she needed the truth. 2 nights later, Alana called her, voice tense. I found something. What is it? Insurance payout was processed 2 days after the fire. That's impossible. These things take weeks. So they already had it ready. Exactly. Alana paused. And the claim was filed under Claudia Reddington's name, not Alexander's. Naya froze. Claudia? She took out a private policy on the mansion last month, separate from her husband's, worth millions, more than enough to pay off whatever debts they were hiding. Naya sat in silence, the pieces finally fitting together in a way that made her stomach twist. She remembered Claudia's coldness, her jealousy, her eyes burning with accusation in the rain, and something else, the faint scent of her perfume in the hallway the night before the fire, the same corridor that burned first. Alana, Naya whispered, what if Claudia started it? But before Alana could answer, her phone buzzed again. A new message from an unknown number. It was a video file. No caption. She opened it, and the color drained from her face. It was security footage, grainy, time-stamped just before the fire. The camera showed the servants' corridor, and a figure entering Naya's room. Not Naya, Claudia Reddington, holding a small metal canister. Later that night, Naya returned to her room above the laundromat. The air was thick with detergent and memories. She sat on her bed, staring at her burned hands. Her reflection in the cracked mirror looked like a stranger, bruised, tired, yet somehow unbroken. She thought of the twins, Mary's laugh, Mia's quiet hugs, the way they'd reached for her even as the flames rose. She couldn't stop now. For them and for herself, she needed the truth. 2 nights later, Alana called her, voice tense. I found something. What is it? Insurance payout was processed 2 days after the fire. That's impossible. These things take weeks. So they already had it ready. Exactly. Alana paused. And the claim was filed under Claudia Reddington's name, not Alexander's. Naya froze. Claudia? She took out a private policy on the mansion last month, separate from her husband's, worth millions, more than enough to pay off whatever debts they were hiding. Naya sat in silence, the pieces finally fitting together in a way that made her stomach twist. She remembered Claudia's coldness, her jealousy, her eyes burning with accusation in the rain, and something else, the faint scent of her perfume in the hallway the night before the fire, the same corridor that burned first. Alana, Naya whispered. What if Claudia started it? But before Alana could answer, her phone buzzed again. A new message from an unknown number. It was a video file, no caption. She opened it, and the color drained from her face. It was security footage, grainy, time-stamped just before the fire. The camera showed the servants' corridor, and a figure entering Naya's room. Not Naya, Claudia Reddington, holding a small metal canister. Alana's voice trembled. Naya, you need to see this. Naya stared at the frozen frame, Claudia's face lit by the faint glow of the security light. She felt her heart pound in disbelief, anger, and something deeper, sorrow. She had risked her life for that woman's children, and that woman had tried to destroy hers. Outside, thunder cracked across the sky, shaking the windows. Naya rose slowly from her chair, her voice low and steady. Then it's time the world saw what really happened. The night smelled like rain and reckoning. The city was quiet except for the hum of tires as Naya's borrowed sedan rolled through the Reddington estate gates, or what was left of them. The mansion had been rebuilt partially, its skeleton wrapped in scaffolding. Floodlights washed over the charred remains, casting long shadows that looked almost human. Alana sat beside her, laptop glowing faintly on her knees. Once we send this file, she whispered, it goes public, social feeds, news outlets, even the Reddington Foundation's page. No one can bury it. Naya's eyes stayed fixed on the ruins. Not yet. She unbuckled her seatbelt. I need to look her in the eye first. Inside what used to be the Grand Hall, Claudia Reddington stood among architects and lawyers, her voice sharp, commanding. Even amid ashes, she radiated wealth. A white trench coat, diamond earrings, a controlled smile that could cut glass. When she saw Naya step out of the shadows, her face faltered, just for a heartbeat. Then she recovered. You shouldn't be here. Naya walked closer, her voice steady but shaking at the edges. You destroyed my life. Claudia folded her arms. You destroyed my home. Your home. Naya's eyes glistened. I carried your daughters through fire. I breathed smoke so they could breathe air. And you blamed me. You were the one in that room, Claudia said coldly. You think anyone will believe a maid over me? Alana stepped forward, holding up her tablet. They'll believe this. She tapped play. On the screen, the grainy footage from the mansion's security camera, the timestamp, the corridor, the door to Naya's quarters, and Claudia, unmistakable, pouring accelerant from a silver canister, striking a match and walking away. The room fell silent. Even the architects froze, eyes wide. Claudia's face drained of color. That's not real. It's fabricated. It came from your husband's backup server, Alana said. Encrypted, but not erased. You deleted the main footage. You forgot the backup feed. Claudia's composure cracked. You have no idea what you're doing. Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing, Naya whispered. I'm taking back the truth you tried to bury. At that moment, heavy footsteps echoed. Alexander Reddington appeared in the doorway, disheveled, unshaven, a man crumbling under invisible weight. His eyes flicked from Claudia to Naya, then to the video frozen on Alana's screen. Claudia! His voice was low, broken. Is it true? She said nothing. He took a step forward. Tell me you didn't. Her silence was the answer. Alexander staggered back as if struck. My God! The children, they could have. They didn't. Claudia snapped, desperate now. I knew they'd be safe. I planned it, Her words died when she realized what she'd just confessed to. Not just to them, but to every phone recording, every open mic in the room. Because Alana had started broadcasting the moment they entered. The live feed was already spreading online, a headline forming in real time. Exclusive. Reddington matriarch confesses to arson. Maid exonerated. Claudia turned to Naya, eyes blazing with disbelief and venom. You think this makes you a hero? You're still nothing. You'll always be. Naya's voice cut through her words, soft but unshakable. I'm the woman who saved your daughters. That's something you'll never understand. For the first time, Claudia had no answer. Security entered moments later, followed by police. Cameras flashed as they led Claudia away. Shouting, crying, still insisting she'd done it for her family. Naya just watched, tears mixing with rain. The storm outside had finally broken. Later that night, the news played across every screen in the city. Former philanthropist Claudia Reddington arrested for orchestrating mansion fire. New evidence clears made Naya Wilson of all charges. Heroic act or cover-up. The truth finally burns through. Alana poured 2 cups of coffee in her small office, handing one to Naya. You did it, she said. The world knows. Naya took a sip, her hands still trembling. You believed me when no one else did. Alana smiled softly. The truth always finds a voice. It just needs someone brave enough to speak it. Outside, dawn crept through the rain clouds, gold light spilling into the room. Naya turned to the window, exhaling slowly, as if releasing years of smoke from her lungs. For the first time since the fire, she could breathe freely. But as she looked out into the sunrise, she saw a black car pull up across the street. The tinted window lowered slightly. Inside sat Alexander Reddington, alone, watching her. Their eyes met. He didn't speak, but the look said everything. Guilt, gratitude, and something like sorrow. He drove away without a word. Naya stood there, heart heavy but clear. The world had finally seen the truth. But she knew the scars on her skin, her heart, and in those little girls' memories, would never fully fade. Still, she whispered to herself, as the sun broke through the clouds, out of ashes we rise. 6 months later, spring returned to the city. The trees along Rosemont Avenue were finally green again, and the air carried the scent of rain-washed earth instead of smoke. Naya Wilson stood at the edge of a playground, watching children run and laugh beneath the morning sun. Her hands, once wrapped in burns, were healing, though faint scars still traced her wrists like ghostly reminders. On a bench behind her, a stroller squeaked. 2 little girls with matching curls giggled inside. Mary and Mia Reddington. Their nanny called out, Mary, Mia, say thank you to Miss Naya. The twins turned and waved their small hands. Thank you, Miss Naya. Naya smiled softly, tears threatening but gentle this time. You're welcome, babies. She hadn't expected this moment. After everything, the fire, the accusations, the storm, she thought she'd never see them again. But life, like fire, had its strange way of cleansing what it couldn't destroy. When Claudia Reddington was sentenced, the courtrooms had been filled with silence, the kind of silence that carries shame. Alexander had sat through every hearing, stone-faced. When it ended, he walked out without a word. Weeks later, a letter arrived at Naya's small apartment. The handwriting was neat, deliberate. Naya, there are no words that can undo what you endured because of us. Because of her. You saved my daughters. You saved what good was left of me. If forgiveness is too heavy to give, I understand. But please know they still ask about you. Every night. Alexander Reddington. Along with the letter was a check. Large enough to erase every debt, every scar of poverty she'd known. She tore it in half. Some things she decided were not for sale. Instead, Naya opened a small daycare in the city, the Rising Place. It was quiet, painted in bright colors, with hand-me-down toys and laughter that healed in ways money never could. Her story had inspired donations, enough to build something honest from the ashes. Sometimes parents asked her why she named it the Rising Place. She'd smile and say, because everyone deserves a second chance to rise. One afternoon, a familiar figure appeared at the daycare door. Alana Cruz, holding her ever-present notepad and that same knowing smile. You've been avoiding my calls, Alana teased. Naya laughed. I'm not a story anymore. Maybe not, Alana said. But the world still needs to hear yours. Netflix just reached out. They want to adapt my article into a documentary. Naya froze. You're kidding. Alana shook her head. They want your permission to tell it your way. Not the tabloids. The truth. Through your eyes. For a long moment, Naya said nothing. Then she nodded slowly. If it helps one person believe in their own truth again, then yes. Later that evening, after the children were gone and the lights dimmed, Naya stepped outside. The sky was gold, the sun sinking low behind the city skyline. She could still smell the faint trace of smoke in her memory, but it no longer haunted her. It reminded her she'd survived. From a distance, the twins' laughter echoed faintly from the park across the street, carried by the wind. She closed her eyes, whispered a quiet prayer and smiled. The fire didn't end me. It revealed me. The last of the sunlight touched her face. Soft, forgiving, eternal. And for the first time since that terrible night, Naya Wilson didn't feel like the maid who survived the fire. She felt like a woman reborn. The end. Thank you for listening, my wonderful friends. I'm sure it's been a delight. Tell me, if you were in Naya's shoes, would you forgive so easily? What lessons have you learnt from this story? I would like to hear from you in the comments. Tune in again tomorrow because I have another unbelievable story for you. Do well to hit the like button, subscribe and share this video with your friends. Goodbye.